Accountability, leadership, wellness, it all starts with you. You can try to do all these things for someone else, but it has to start with you. There is a tangible operational need to take care of your people. They're your asset, they're your resource. In addition to wellness, I think that we have a lot to gain by really highlighting personal, professional, career development. I mean, we can't truly be objective just in our own little echo chamber. And so, are we being effective for our family, for our team? Like, how are we showing up? But I'm really just trying to help first responders, police, high drive individuals just live a little bit better. Confidence and competence, they're parallel roads. So if you do what you can to be competent, then the confidence will come.
Welcome to Responder Resilience. Along with Dr. Stacy Raymond, I'm David Dashinger. Today we're speaking with Commander Eric Tung, founder of Blue Grit, who's all about helping law enforcement officers perform better and live their best lives. We'll explore how to build resilience in ourselves and others and how police leaders can tap into generational traits to boost team communication. And for the younger officers out there, we've got key advice on building confidence and earning respect.
There's a new app built by firefighters for firefighters, and it's called Crackle. Download the app now for free as a Legacy member and get early access to exclusive content, tools, and updates as they drop. Get the free app at crackle.respondertv.com.
We invite you to like and subscribe, YouTube, Responder Resilience, Facebook, Responder TV, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our website is respondertv.com for past episodes and guest information. We'll be right back to speak with Eric after this.
Ask a first responder who they are, and you're likely to hear,
I am a police officer.
I am a firefighter.
I am a paramedic.
I am a 911 communications operator.
not I do this work, but I am this job. Ask a clinician why they work with first responders, and they may say,
there's no higher calling than helping the helpers.
join us in shaping a culture where mental health, wellness, and leadership are prioritized, not whispered about, where support is a sign of strength, not failure, and where no one has to carry the weight alone. Welcome to Responder Resilience. We shine a spotlight on the unseen battles of first responder reality and celebrate the powerful wins that come from the grit of post-traumatic growth. We understand the culture, honor the trust, and bring you conversations from the change makers, passionate about helping first responders come home whole.
With your hosts, retired Lieutenant David Dashinger, Dr. Stacy Raymond, and Bonnie Rumley, LCSW EMT.
Our guest today is Eric Tung, who created Blue Grit to empower police, first responders, and driven individuals to live and perform better. As an active police commander in Washington State, he oversees patrol operations and wellness programs, bringing 18 years of experience to the table. Eric draws on intense highs and lows of law enforcement to help others cultivate a grounded mindset, adaptable routines, and a positive organizational culture. You can catch his insights on Blue Grit Radio and subscribe to his free newsletter at bluegritwellness.com. And you can connect with him on LinkedIn or Instagram at Blue Grit Wellness. Eric, warm welcome to Responder Resilience.
Thank you both so much. Yeah, it's an honor to be here.
So, Eric, I'd like to start out by asking you to tell us about your journey into law enforcement and what inspired you to create Blue Grit.
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey into police work was a little later than many. I didn't grow up wanting to be a police officer. I grew up a bit more traditional to what my parental and cultural expectations were, go to med school, go to law school, that kind of thing. But it was really when I was in college, I saw a lot of crime in the Seattle area. And I always had this calling toward and this respect and reverence for those that were in the uniform, whether it was armed services, those that gave back, those that paid it forward, or first responders. And so it was really midway through college where I did a huge pivot and I just started throwing myself into whatever material I could find. I ordered this huge textbook, this manual on the fire service and testing and what the job entailed. A lot of like the textbook material that you might learn in a fire academy or in a trade school. I wasn't really able to find a whole lot in policing back then. And that does kind of inform a lot of what I try to put out in my content and curriculum. Fast forward, I just jumped right into it the spring when I was about to graduate. I got hired by my local police department in Western Washington, been with the same department for 18 years now. And a lot of why I picked it was because it was busy and there's a lot of crime, a lot of activity. I wanted to do the real thing. But really to give a little bit of an overview of how I got to creating Blue Grit, it was not out of a intense long-term awareness of the impact and importance of different wellness factors. Each kind of facet, if you want to call it that, or pillar of wellness that we think about was really acquired through me having to develop and cultivate and learn those things, sometimes off the hard mistakes. So I dove into fitness and nutrition because although I felt I had a knack for more like the analytical skills, having an academic, strength as a kid, I really wanted to do like the boots on the ground, the high pace stuff, fast paced stuff when I hit the streets. So I wanted to go for canine, and I was like, well, I have to be the biggest, strongest, fastest, most nimble, durable guy can be to chase down these guys and keep up with the German Shepherd and lift that big fella over fences and all that. So I went for that. That's a part of my career that was definitely a highlight. But then sleep was terrible for years and years on and off of Graves. And my emotional awareness and my relationships and the importance of peer support, like these things all I came to recognize how important they were because I needed them. And so I participated in peer support for the majority of my career, truly as a peer support member, and then later as a team coordinator. One huge piece that really informed like why I even kicked off Blue Grit was the loss of my buddy Diego. Diego was killed in the line of duty, and that really highlighted my desire to do more and see more and learn more about wellness as it pertains to first responder cultures. But it was 2020 that many of us can reconcile with, and the impact of that, where I was already putting out stuff a little bit about my reflections on the career and personal reflections. I was already sharing fitness and nutrition stuff and peer support stuff just through my own little circles. And that's where I just wanted to put out something positive. It started with simply an Instagram and a blog, Blue Grit Wellness. And then from there, it's grown over years and years into a podcast and a newsletter. And it's simply you put it really well when you describe all the things I'm trying to get at, but I'm really just trying to help first responders, police, high drive individuals just live a little bit better.
Sure.
Yeah, you described a lot there, Eric. And what is one thing that's sort of front of mind right now that you see a need to address with Blue Grit in terms of, let's just focus on law enforcement, in terms of building resilience and not just throwing it around as a buzzword, but actual real world resilience. What does that represent to you?
Yeah, resilience for me is just being able to roll with the punches and keep living toward and in the life the way you want it, right? The way that you've always imagined, not to think about our careers of how much it took from us, because we hear that a lot, and it's not to disparage that mindset. I think it's fair to recognize, like, you're going to take losses, you're going to take hits, but if we're honest with ourselves, we all signed up for that. No one thought it was going to be sunshine and rainbows. However, I like to acknowledge the hits and then highlight the wins. And I feel very fortunate, although I've seen a lot of rough things, and some may argue a lot of really terrible things befell me or those around me. I try, and I think it's very important that we're intentional about focusing on the good, because if we don't focus on it, we don't capture it, we lose it.
Right, and that helps feed your pride, because I really think that all first responders should have some sense of pride, because not everybody's signing up to do that kind of work. And so if you focus on the wins, then that feeds your pride, and then now you know why you put the uniform on every day.
Yeah, I love that you highlight pride as a good thing. Yeah, we should have some pride and moderation. You should be proud of the great things you do. You should be proud of the great people around you. Just like ego, like there's a lot of socialization, like ego's the enemy and kill the ego. It's like, no, you need a healthy amount of ego.
Right. But pride is different than ego. Ego is tossed around as being self-centered. Mm-hmm. Pride, in my understanding of it, is like really honoring the work that you do and the sacrifice that you make.
Yeah, I like that.
By the time a first responder sits across from you, They've likely exhausted every internal resource they have. This isn't a routine appointment, it's their 911 call. You won't hear sirens, but the urgency is real. If you choose to take that call, understand what it means to show up, to stay steady, and to carry the weight of someone who's spent a career doing the same for others.
Be the resource they can count on. Order your copy of Helping the Helpers today on Amazon, or for bulk book orders, contact us at info@respondertv.com.
Closing in on 2 decades doing this job, and by this point you probably see a couple of different generations still on the job. Are there ways that police leaders can kind of leverage those generational traits in a positive sense to enhance team communication? Because I know we all like to communicate in different ways depending on kind of when we were brought up.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this. I feel like I'm kind of in the in the middle of all this generational talk. I just hit 40 last year, so I'm technically an old millennial, and so I grapple with some of that. At the same time, I grew up with dial-up internet and like one phone line, and so I feel the older generations too. Like, we didn't have a computer in my house for most of my childhood. But all to say, like, I think a couple things are to simplify it, the biggest things. One is stay curious, because we have such a broad audience, and we understand that from internal and external stakeholders, community. But even in our departments, like, people grew up drastically different. And so just trying to stay curious, I think, invites us to be open about how we communicate, open about how our communication is received, and getting to know people, seeing, making the connections where you can. The other piece of that is just recognizing it's easy to kind of be curmudgeon-y of like, oh, kids these days. But let's be honest, every generation, and I'm pretty sure there's studies and historical anecdotes that show this, every generation said that, probably since the dawn of time, like kids these days.
Right. But there are some real differences. Like what I hear from police leaders is that they don't want to sign up. They don't want to work. They don't want to be ordered in. They have an attitude. And that, they're kind of lazy.
I feel that in both ways. I see it in both respects. I see some of these, like, quote unquote, let's say younger adults, and I see how the job wears on them. I love that they're emotionally intelligent and they're able to take a beat. Yeah. And so it's kind of like we're having like two ends of the same conversation, because we need the work to be done. At the same time, we are concerned that this generation, and they're like, studies are informed, they're not going to stay in the careers as long as their predecessors. But if we want them to stay longer, we have to attune to their wellness needs.
Correct. Now it's all the same. They're all about peer support. That's what I find. Right, they're really open to it. But if the tone doesn't change toward promoting officer wellness and supporting what officers go through, then this generation isn't going to stay in the career as long as, the leadership now. Yeah.
I love that you bring that up, Stacey. And I guess going to the brass tacks that you're kind of highlighting, in addition to wellness, I think that we have a lot to gain by really highlighting personal, professional career development. And so people are able to wear a lot of hats. They're able to cycle through specialties and continue to build themselves and the agency, right? Connect that pride in your mission and message. That's probably one of the most viable strategies, or else they're going to feel like a number. They're going to feel like they're replaceable, and they're going to leave and force us to replace them.
Right.
So this kind of piggybacks on this conversation that we're having. Work-life balance. So that's something that's talked about a lot, and it's we find a lot of first responders, a lot of us are personally have done this. We just take on the job as it's our full identity, our full 24/7 mission in life, to the exclusion of a lot of other things, and obviously maybe not a healthy balance. So what are your thoughts on kind of restoring that balance? Like, how realistic is that, and is that going to have an impact on longevity for the people we're talking about?
Yeah, I love that conversation. The identity is so encompassing and so concentrated. And so I've heard a lot of people kind of poo-poo the even the phrase of work-life balance. I like it as a goal and an orientation point, right? So that's the intention, and recognizing that in this job and these career types, you are going to find yourself in complete and significant imbalance, but the goal should always to rebalance, right? And reharmonize that.
Yeah.
So I think in a day, that's probably unrealistic. In a week, I think we can do it. And then after a few weeks of really hard times, and maybe that's critical staffing and lots of mandates, maybe that's, unrest in your region. After a few weeks, couple months, then that's where we need to take the bigger steps of taking the time off that you're given, going on vacation or staycation, and then these different things like talking to a clinician, to a pastor, peer support. Those things are going to reorient us, right? Like setting up a coffee date with your college buddy you haven't seen in a year, that's going to reorient you. So it's not one thing, but everything's personalized. But I do think that we ought to think about how we can restore that balance in a better way through management.
Well, Eric, it's so important to restore the balance, but what I'm finding is a lot of officers don't realize that they are out of balance. So teaching what are the signs of being out of balance, off balance. That's one thing that the group that I belong to, we voluntarily go into departments and teach, these are the symptoms that you need to look for. So Fairfield County Trauma Response Team here in Connecticut, this is what we offer. Police, fire, dispatch, EMS, if they want to learn about it, like this is, we will just come for free and present that to you so you know what to look for. And it's eye-opening because they're like, oh, I didn't realize that arguments with my spouse could be a sign that things are wearing thin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. It's the adage of the frog in hot water that is, gradually boiling. Yeah, you're just in it. And I think that there's so many really slippery coping mechanisms that aren't super healthy. They're kind of innocuous at first, but then they become so overwhelming.
Like alcohol,
social media, scrolling, doom scrolling, screen time, working overtime, for sure, all these.
Lack of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And just saying, well, everyone else has it, like it's not a big deal. Yes, even if everyone else is struggling with sleep, that doesn't mean that you look the other way.
Yeah. I found it difficulty staying away from work, difficulty taking time off. I've grappled with those things, and a social event with your buddies, and you're excited about it 2 weeks ago, and as it gets closer, you're like, I don't really feel it. Mm-hmm. That's something that's worth peeling back and asking yourself why.
Correct. Right. Mm-hmm. Isolating is dangerous, especially when we look at the suicide numbers among police. So the next topic really touches upon this idea of self-awareness, like learning about yourself and being vulnerable enough to admit, like, the job's getting to me and it's affecting not just me, but, my family. So how important would you say is vulnerability and self-awareness for law enforcement officers?
It's critical. I mean, it's of highest importance to answer your question.
And I'm all in favor of that, but it's really tough to get alpha males and alpha females to bring down the wall or look over the wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the allegory, like we have these walls, like these really hardened defenses, but if we're honest with ourselves, all of these different, again, wellness factors, whether it's emotional, spiritual, financial, physical, like we have this foundation that might be rotting and we're not attending to it. So we build up these bigger walls, but we really gotta, the bigger your wall builds up, technically the stronger your foundation ought to be, or the whole thing's going to go down. And we see it. Even those that might be a little bit more stubborn, we know they exist. They're stereotypes for a reason, right? These are all archetypes that exist in every single agency, organization, regardless of what's fire service, EMS, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There are those that are never gonna seek help, but if we can get the majority, to be open to it and, to look at themselves, right? There's always going to be that subset that's like, no, I got this.
Yeah. What I appreciate is, like, when you talk about vulnerability, there are a lot of folks that were those types. They absolutely were, until something wasn't working in a significant enough way. Yeah. And then so they share their stories. So I hope that because everyone is so different and everyone's so unique that continuing to hear these types of stories for those that are willing to put it out, it might be on a podcast, it might be in a one-on-one, like those stories are impactful, right? They socialize the acceptance and the essentially like the okayness of it.
Right. That's why on our podcast, we have a lot of first responders that are admitting, here's where I was, this is where I was, with alcohol or divorce or
and chiefs now too. We're starting to see more, chief level people who are being totally open and transparent about their struggles and seeking help. And that's a big shift too, just to hear someone who's wearing a white shirt say, hey, I needed help. I'm not ashamed to say it.
Well, what a way to signal the actual cultural acceptance from the top. It's one thing if a chief or an administrator says, an executive says, yeah, we value wellness. Yes, we want you to use the gym. Yes, we want you to use our clinician.
Right.
But if they don't use any of those things, it's really hard to believe it.
Correct. Right.
Not everyone is meant to walk this path, and that's okay. But for those who feel the call, for those who read these words and feel not just curiosity, but conviction, know this: by the time a first responder sits across from you, they've likely exhausted every internal resource they have. This isn't a routine appointment, it's their 911 call.
I don't know how much longer I can do this job.
You won't hear sirens, but the urgency is real. If you choose to take that call, understand what it means: to show up, to stay steady, and to carry the weight of someone who spent a career doing the same for others. This is where the work begins. Be the resource they can count on. Order your copy of Helping the Helpers today on Amazon, and for bulk orders, email us at info@respondertv.com.
There's a term, true accountability, and I'd love to know what how you look at it in terms of the context of law enforcement, and does that have a way that it shows up in agencies?
Yeah, I think with accountability, accountability, leadership, wellness, it all starts with you. You can try to do all these things for someone else, but it has to start with you. You can limp it along, but truly, if you don't cement that from the start with yourself, then it's all for naught. So when I hear accountability, I think very much the same of ownership and integrity. It's just doing the best you can with what you have, and that might be context and timing dependent. Like we'd all love to show up at a 10. Some days all we have is an 8.5, and that's going to be pretty dang good. So when it goes to accountability, I think it goes to values and mission, like personal mission. And I mean, that's one thing that I am so adamant about for those that have not considered what their values are and really written them down and found some process to revisit that, maybe quarterly, maybe yearly, maybe monthly. That can be such a game changer in knowing why you're doing the thing you're doing.
Right. In fact, that could be a topic in the, in some states, they have mandated wellness visits, right? So in Connecticut, I think it's like every 5 years, which I think it should be more frequent than that. But that could be one of the questions that's really not all that difficult to hear and address, as an officer. Where do you see yourself in 5 years in this department? What would you like to be working on, Yeah,
and there's I belong to a men's workout group that has an annual suggested activity called the 8 block, which basically you're looking at 8 different areas of your life: spiritual, personal, work, and it gives you that opportunity to reflect on it and kind of plan out, okay, the next 12 months, where are my priorities going to be? What am I going to focus on? Just like you're saying, Eric, it's like a reset or a check-in on a regular basis that can really be a game changer.
Yeah, I love that piece of accountability, and even the fact that you bring up this clear example of how you can bring in a group accountability and inviting feedback from your close friends, from your spouse, partner, and then recognizing to pull the defense down and really truly listen because you asked for it. I mean, we can't truly be objective just in our own little echo chamber. And so are we being effective for our family, for our team? How are we showing up? Absolutely.
So I'd like to ask about fairness and leadership. What does that look like? And how should it look with both positive and negative feedback from leadership?
Yeah, that's tough. It's really hard because it's so context dependent, and maybe that even highlights this big question of like, wait, how is fairness context dependent? And what I mean by that is like I had all these opinions about how you should address things, how you should coach and counsel and, you know, discipline even as an officer. And then when I went to sergeant as a first line, I had a little bit different context, right? And I'm like, well, this is a little bit more complicated than I thought as an officer. But just to give the listeners a perspective, I'm going to look at something differently if it's a 1-year officer doing this mistake versus a 10-year officer or a field trainer. And right, so when I say fairness is contextual, that's what I mean by that, right? Has someone made the mistake 5 times or 1 time? But then I think what's more important in this conversation of resilience and culture building is what is the goal? And a lot of times it's behavior change, but I would say, how do we make this person better? How do we bring them in, make them part of the team, connect back to the mission? Make sure they're okay, right? Because they're the ones doing the work. It's not me. I'm sitting in a cubicle most of the day, most days. But the people that are out there making the tough decisions and facing the true scrutiny, like they're out there, you know, 10, 14 hours a day. And so to be empathetic and understanding to that, again, going back to the earlier point, stay curious, right? Like remember what it was like to be that, but also recognize as leaders, we don't know what it's like to be that because they're not doing the same job we did back 10, 18, 25 years ago.
Right.
Eric, as a supervisor and having all these people under your, you know, sort of your watch, how do you stay in touch with whether they may be struggling or they've been on a few bad calls back to back or within a week of each other? What kind of, how do you stay in touch with that and then address potential that they may be struggling and need some help? What kind of resources do you bring to that situation?
Yeah, directly, I keep tabs on the type of calls, and you know, of course, for operations, that's it's effective if you're aware of what's going on. But on the wellness side, you know, even those that I don't supervise, like I have basically half of the patrol division is under my watch, but then I monitor what's going on the days off. I monitor what's coming in the weeklies and kind of some trends of other things. And then we have a network. Like I would say I'm very proud of our culture of peer support that goes beyond our peer support team. And so this happened especially as a sergeant where people would just peers and command sometimes and officers would just pitch me something like, hey, these guys went to this kid call. And I'm like, cool, thank you for letting me know. I was aware, but please don't assume that we're aware. And right, so then it became connecting with other peer support members of those shifts, right? Something like that. But then more of the context is like being in mid-management now and recognizing that although I can go to roll calls and I interact with people in the lunchroom and break room, it's just not the same, right, for everybody. Some people are very open and very, I guess, comfortable, and others may not be, right? So to leverage and connect with my first lines and continually, like when I see them and sit down with them at least once a week, it's just literally asking them, how are you? How's your crew? Like, how is everyone doing? What are they what are they complaining about? Are they upset about something? Is it leadership? Is it this? Is it stress? How are they dealing with the politics out there with policing? And some shifts are a little tenuous, and the same day other shifts might be like, I don't think my guys are talking or concerned about it at all. I'm like, cool, just be aware. And then we have that open communication through the different ranks.
Right. I can't tell you how refreshing it is to hear a leader care and really go the distance. And I'm sure David feels the same way.
Yeah. Every time we have a guest like yourself who's, you know, embracing this new way or a different way of doing it than we've traditionally done it, to me, it's like so exciting to know that we're hopefully turning a corner. You know, we're moving into a new, as the younger generations step into these roles, whether it's mid-management or towards the top, that it really is a changing of the guard and the mentality and mindset of, you know, this may have worked back then, but there's a new way that we can approach this that might be better.
Yeah, I think so, and I hope so. I've said it before on my show and other places, like those that are coming up, maybe they're new recruits now, maybe they're first-line supervisors, maybe they're not even firefighters or EMS or cops, but when they're administrators, oh my gosh, like I literally can't imagine what they'll come up with that'll be so helpful for the culture and the careers. But at the same time, like I've I've been told subtly, I've been told overtly that it appears that and this might sound like a flex or like a humble brag, but no, I've been told operationally, like, I think you care too much about what people think and feel. And I do carry it kind of like a brag. I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying. However, I don't, unless there's evidence of how that's impacted operations.
Right.
And she's like, well, no, it hasn't. It's just something like, just feedback. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, feedback received. And so I don't
see it as look, this is my take on it as a clinical psychologist. I don't think you're too sensitive or you're taking it too seriously. I think you're hearing from the old guard that can't imagine intervening with subordinates the way that you do. They're just uncomfortable.
Yeah, and a concrete thing was, there was a time when one of the bosses was like, hey, like, I just noticed you send people home a lot after calls, but, like, do you ever ask if they're okay, after a traumatic wreck or something like that? And I'm like,
right.
I actually don't send any guys home. I sign off on it. I empower and I actually support my sergeants to make the call.
Right. So
and I do encourage it. Like, I recognize I encourage it because I socialize it, but also it's in policy. But also, I say after it's done, I'm like, hey, good on you. And I tell the officer later, hey, I heard you went home. Good on you for taking the time.
Good.
And some of them are like, I needed it. I'm like, good. And then others are like, I wasn't sure, but I took it. And I'm like, good. Because you can't go backwards. You can't go back in time and be like, I was really messed up, but I stayed on and my head wasn't in the game.
Right. You're giving them permission to take care of themselves, and that has to happen from leadership.
Yeah, and when an 8-year veteran that everyone respects, is just a hard charger, does it, and everyone is watching,
right?
Like, I feel morally obligated to say, hey, good job, but also I know that person is setting a very positive, healthy tone for everyone else.
Absolutely.
Boxing has the power to change lives, especially for first responders. Fight Camp embraces your journey, whether you're stepping into the ring for the first time, returning after a break, or aiming to elevate your fitness. Harness the strength of boxing to release stress, build resilience, and connect with a supportive community, one punch at a time. Use code RR10 for a 10% discount on Fight Camp packages and accessories. Go to joinfightcamp.com/shop.
What advice would you give to young officers regarding building self-confidence?
Yeah, it's a lot of things, but confidence and competence are this kind of they're parallel roads. So if you do what you can to be competent, then the confidence will come. And sometimes there's a healthy mix of fake it till you make it, like just assert yourself and, stand up tall, especially for any job role. But, we could talk about officer presence, and I mean, so many times it's just how you carry yourself. And then with confidence and competence, I think it's very, might be a curveball for some, but just to recognize there's a lot you don't know, and the more you learn, the less you know, kind of thing. And just sit comfortably, embrace that perpetual student, because that's one of the biggest game changers that I found in official leadership, was going from thinking that I had to know it all because I didn't want to let people down, to recognizing I wasn't going to know it all. In fact, there's so many things that a lot of my officers are they're so much like above and beyond anything I'll grapple with because of the times, because of assignment, and just to have those conversations and build that trust. It goes so far just to recognize what you don't know, and it be okay saying, I don't know. Let me find out. That's huge on the street, and it's huge in the walls of your department as well.
Yeah, stay curious.
Yeah.
Eric, if you were addressing a class of, say, college students who are considering going into this profession, what would you tell them? What kind of guidance would you give them before they make that move or make that decision?
Yeah, I haven't always been a journaler, but I would invite some sort of reflective process. And there's something powerful about writing something down and being able to revisit it. So almost like creating your own time capsule. Like, why do you want to do this work? And like, truly why? And I talked a lot about this, and I was involved in hiring. I've sat on oral boards for a long time. But just to say, like, why specifically this job? And then find out what your internal values are. Like, really identify those things, because the identity is so significant. However, like, the job is not you. You are not the job. it can be absolutely this accelerant to do the good stuff that you intend to do. But so can teaching, so can clinical work, so can all these other things that a lot of first responders find themselves going to different career paths. Maybe they have to, maybe they want to, but to say like, it cannot be you, but really like, not to disparage you or discourage you, but just highlight what those things are true to you that the job will help you do. And at some point, if the job and those values are not aligning, if you're not able to live your best authentic self and serve in the ways that you really truly desire to, then maybe it's a time to depart.
Yeah, it's so critical to really get real about why we're choosing this profession, because it's a huge commitment not only for us but our family and everybody else that's in our world. So it's kind of a group ride along, if you will.
Absolutely.
Do you have any thoughts about the opposite end of the spectrum, retirement, what you might tell someone who's getting ready to cross that finish line and how they would kind of start to navigate the next phase after law enforcement?
Yeah, I've talked about this with some people that work under my supervision, which is like, hey, what are your goals? And they're like, well, I don't have any career goals. I'm like, no, what are your like life goals? Because we talk about how they're kind of rounding the corner. I'm like, how can we/the department or your work and dedicated, like how can we set you up for success? Is that going to wellness focused training? Because there's a lot of options these days, right? Is it taking time? I've challenged one of my sergeants to take more vacation, and the moment he did, I made a note of it. It went in his eval to say like, hey, he's taking time, like because he's modeling wellness. Like these are very tangible work related professional things. And so I would say, again, in a similar exercise you could do with the recruits or those like looking in college to consider a field like this, you could do the same for someone that's coming up on the turning point or the tunnel of a retirement, which is like, hey, reflect on your career. Let's write down like some awesome things you did. Let's recall like why you came in and think about how a lot of that aligned. And yeah, you might remember some of the not so great things, but let's be honest with ourselves. The little interactions, the big wins, there's so many if people just take the time and they're honest about it. Yeah. And if we're not, you get any firefighters or cops together, of course they start talking about all their fun stories, all the really big moments. And so it's an invitation to do that if you're having trouble thinking of them, because I guarantee they're there.
Right. And I think one of my experiences, we don't recognize or properly evaluate what our marketable skills are moving into the public sector, where we, whether you're a firefighter, cop, you have developed an incredible skill set that could be transferred, maybe not directly, but do you see that as a way that people can maybe just take stock of what they're able to do to remain of service, but in a different capacity?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd consider, what other communities you interact with. Is it a faith group? Is it your neighborhood watch? Like, we just deal with this level of vigilance and critical thinking and quick decision making, and then also long-term decision making, because we can map out all these contingencies and ICS, like for those that have been in it for a bit. And that is not common in a lot of people's life spheres, right? And so there are those tangible kind of carryovers, but then also if it's more about the job, I know a couple former police officers that never would have thought themselves in a setting like this, but they're absolutely loving life teaching. They're loving life teaching in like a community college, technical school kind of thing, because they're such this mentor role. They're coaching something with really positive base of people that want to come in and learn, and they're offering whatever they can, and it's just really lit them up in this really awesome way. And so thinking about things like that, coaching, right? Like there's just so many opportunities to quote unquote help people, which is generally what people say when they want to come into first responder work. Like helping people looks like a million different ways.
Sure. Right.
Eric, tell us where people can find you and talk about all the great things you're putting out there in terms of the podcast, a newsletter, website, anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest one-stop shop is bluegritwellness.com. That's where you can subscribe to my free newsletter. It'll have little tips, wellness information, little reflection points, prompts, but also like the weekly summary of the podcast, which is Blue Grit Radio. That's available on all your major players. So it's talking about things like resilience and really just how do we boost our performance through wellness, leadership, mindset, culture. And so the topics really span a lot of professionals, healthcare professionals, first responders, and outside as well. I do trainings, I speak, do online training. So it's just really trying to meet people where they're at and what I can help with. So always love people reaching out. And I'm on LinkedIn as well, as I think you said, so easy to find there. Perfect. And any speaking gigs coming up that you want to share about? I'm doing one online for an East Coast university, so that's pretty cool. It's someone that heard like a version of, I believe, what you heard, David. So to be able to speak to like their field training cadre and do it online, so it's a little bit more budget friendly. But that's been pretty rewarding just to connect, because our problems are not unique, whether they're cultural or wellness. And so to connect more and build more collaboration in this seemingly polarized world, just to find that commonality and just be positive. I mean, that's one of my biggest intentions, and I think what we all could use a little bit more of.
Well, Eric, thanks so much for being here and sharing your energy and grit and incredible insight into some of the ways that we can change the job for the better. So we totally appreciate you being here, and we look forward to continued conversations. Oh my gosh, thank you both so much.
And I just want to say, it's David and I are just so happy to interview somebody in your position that is really just, pro wellness for your constituents. It's a breath of fresh air.
Thank you. And maybe I'll inject this last thing, because I don't think it's going to be your listeners, but your listeners are interacting with these types. But I can't get how, even when people don't get it for people, because we value people, and that's what the job is, that's what life is. There is a tangible operational need to take care of your people. They're your asset, they're your resource, right? So if you look at them like equipment and numbers, then it still makes sense. But I know that your listeners don't feel that way, but I wonder why there's that disconnect, and maybe we can help them there.
Right, especially if you don't want to lose them.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, remember to like and subscribe. YouTube, Responder Resilience. Facebook, Responder TV. We're on LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And go to our website. It's respondertv.com for our past episodes and guest information. Till the next time, stay safe. Be kind to yourself. Take care.